of Jeremy. So maybe it's just being passed on. I'm not sure.
That would be an interesting turn of events. No matter, David Armas, hard to finish, throws a hard punch.
Incredibly hard to finish.
Fun to watch.
In fact, in that fight with Jeremy, had his arms stretched all the way out and just refused to tap, and it was inverted. I mean, it was gnarly, and I remember that at a Legacy show. And he's just a really tough dude, and there's been a lot of guys figure out a way to beat him. He's not the most technical guy, and he doesn't have a lot of takedown defense and doesn't have a lot of ways to get up once he's taken down. But you don't want to bang with him, and he's not going to quit.
No, he sure won't. I've seen him with really good grapplers not get finished. And in Chris Miller, he goes by King Millie, a pretty seasoned amateur, had some big fights and some good finishes, and brings a really cool style. So Millie here is one of the guys who has that more traditional martial arts style stance, but with better striking defense, and implements good wrestling and grappling. And maybe guys, like Vaughn could perhaps, or that Justin Cherry could learn from a more traditional martial artist who's adapted their game to modern mixed martial arts.
I think there's a Power Ranger in David Armas's corner.
Oh, wow. Man, I don't...
Not in costume tonight.
No.
That would be cool if he was.
That would be coolest. Have to watch out, make sure Rita didn't show up. Start turning people into big monsters.
Maybe during the between these fights, I'm going to go ask Chris Reed how he could not rule that last fight as a knockout.
Yeah.
That's
I was always very particular about that. If I knocked a guy out and it got ruled a TKO, I would surely at least make a request to get a change.
He wasn't asleep, but he was sitting there with some glazed eyes, and he knew that he was not going to try to stand up.
Looking through us, yeah. Man, that was we happened to be placed pretty well in that last one. We were sitting face to face with the guy after he went down. And that punch spun him around.
It looks like the state's going to allow 15 cornermen for David Armas, which is a little bit over the usual max.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. And, TDLR, you got to love them. They follow small rules to the death and then throw out the big rules when they feel like it. Oh, there's no telling. Hard to predict. That's what makes it fun.
This is a really intriguing fight for the reasons you were mentioning earlier. This is a really experienced guy against a guy who is making his debut. Something that, speaking of TDLR, things they normally don't allow, that's one of them.
This is one of them, yeah. I'm looking up Armas' record now. It's 8 wins. That's a lot of professional wins to 16 losses. That's a lot of professional experience. That's well over 20 fights.
Of those 16 losses, how many has he been finished?
That's
like
loaded
one or
now.
two.
Not that many. Armas was known for a while of either like losing a decision or winning by knockout. And that's a dangerous fight to take.
That's a scary, yeah.
You either got to grind him out for the full duration or risk getting knocked out.
And David at 160, he spent a lot of his amateur career at 145, and a lot of his pro career, in fact, at 145. He's thick at 160, so that power may be even more prominent now with his added muscle he's carrying around.
To Armas' credit, of the 16 losses, 2 have been finished. One was a submission by, I want to say, the guy who just fought Daniel Pineda, so a good grappler, and then the other was by Patrick Hutton, who was 2-3 weight classes heavier.
Right.
And one of my guys, and I trained him well for that fight. Pat was ready to go the distance and was doing good.
But like we said, David spent most of his career at 145, and Patrick Hutton spent most of his at 185.
185, yeah, as high as 205. That was a grudge match is what they was. They met in the middle, and that just goes to show Armas's, kind of bravado there. And he went up 3 weight classes to fight. That's crazy, and he did all right.
Yeah, that was a competitive fight.
Yeah. This fight, a welterweight fight. I actually thought it was a.
I thought it was a catchweight. I thought it was a catchweight.
and you can see Millie generally fights at 55. He looks thicker. He looks strong and athletic right now. And Armas carrying a similar demeanor in most of his fights. Never really looks too.
No, he doesn't get too high or low.
No, it's very.
He a lot like Nico in a way.
Yeah.
Remains very calm, which is if you can do it, good for you.
Yeah. Now I know the guys at War, and I know Millie went through a very strict fight camp, and I know Davis has had good fight camps and bad fight camps. I'd be curious to see Armas how his conditioning holds up.
Well, he's got a lot of training partners. And that's
a low side kick,
Yep.
To the cup. Not a great kick to get hit with. That's a very powerful, very heavy kick.
I'm a Diamond Cup man myself.
Yeah, I had to buy a new cup fast. I was warming up for my last fight in China and grappled for about 2 seconds, and my cup was just digging into my leg. I didn't know how bad it was. And yeah, get a good cup. They'll save you.
It's worth the investment.
It is. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because that can be a fight-changing moment, really.
Yeah.
And
sure.
5 minutes seems like a long time to recover, but sometimes you don't recover from that.
Yeah. Both guys have not lost, their focus.
I always joke around that the first thing you do in a fight should either be kick a guy in the balls or poke him in the eye, and then apologize, because you get one freebie if you do that.
Shoot, yeah, I have dealt with only one eye poke in my career, and it was recent, and it was rough. I wish that upon no man in the cage.
Ooh.
A hook kick, another fun technique. But if you notice Millie's hand positioning, it's higher than the other more traditional martial artists, and he's still using the same strikes. I mean, you can keep good defense and still maintain that fun kick offense. There's a fine balance. Jumping, spinning back kick there for Millie. Oh, wow.
Oh.
Armas with a good left hook to a flying knee.
Did he into a guillotine?
This is deep. This guillotine
Millie's in
is
trouble
deep.
right here.
Armas is really
Pressed him against a cage.
Armas investing a lot of energy into this submission, and he's not out. This is a dangerous choke there for Millie. He's really fighting to fight the hands. He's giving up position. Armas looking for guard, and he gets it. He's in the full guard. He can finish this choke. And he tapped him.
David Armas with a submission win.
Wow. Wow.
Who saw that coming?
Armas by a left hook to a flying knee to a standing to a props to David Armas. Very surprising.
Well, if you'd asked me ways this fight could be finished, that would have been way down on the list.
Man, and to Millie's credit, he stayed in
fought
that tight guillotine as long as he could have. That's the risk, making a pro debut. Again, I got another pretty strong kind of list of rules on what fights to take early on.
And guys with 24 fights, that's not what you want?
That's a tough one.
I'll be honest, a guy with 5 fights, I don't know if I'm wanting him to take a fight with a guy who's got 24.
Yeah, general rule of thumb. I like when my guys make their pro debut, they fight a guy with zero fights or 1 fight, and then, on either side. And then until they get maybe 3 or 4 fights, then they can start to fight some of the guys with the upside-down records, but with a lot of fights.
Right.
And then, wow, that was a very impressive finish. And you can see the frustration in Millie, and you can see the feeling of his coaches. I know Millie puts a lot of work in.
How many submission wins on David Armas' record? It can't be many. I mean, he's had some flying knee knockouts and things like that, but nope, guillotine.
Knockout. A lot of knee knockouts, and that makes sense. He landed that flying knee, which ultimately set up that guillotine. I know odds
I'm happy
makers,
for David. I'll be honest. When you get to a 8-16, it's real easy to just be like, you know what, I've had some fun. This is enough.
Yeah, or I'll show up for the payday. He did not. He showed up to win this fight.
That's what I like. Like we said, David's not short of heart.
No, he's not. His corner's got a.
They only let like a quarter of his corner into the cage for the post-fight picture, so there's like.
I got a bunch of cool boxes and backpacks.
You don't keep your ice in a Yeti for your fighters. 2 fights to go. Warren Stewart, Adrian Yanez, and Colin Wright, Ray Trujillo. Boy, we're burning through the pro side of this card.
Yeah, it's only 10:30.
Had some slow Ami fights, and these pro fights are in a hurry.
With finishes.
We've seen 1 second round.
Yeah, all finishes ever since. Mostly submissions. A great knockout there from Jonathan Davis. In these, I'll tell you, Adrian Yanez is up next, and he has got some sharp boxing.
Looks like Warren Stewart didn't turn in his picture, or something. Warren Stewart didn't turn in his picture, I suppose.
And we'll get some fun graphics.